Hello, in this section we will enter data for the first month of operations into the three accounting software of QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, and Excel. This will be a longer portion of the course, this being the major thing that the accounting department will do on a day-to-day basis, entering the normal transactions, those normal transactions including things like invoices, bills, and checks. We will enter the normal day-to-day process and the data input into both QuickBooks Online and Desktop, but we're going to go beyond that and discuss how to set up the system in order to make that data input as easy as possible. And this is really where the challenging part is. The point of the data input system is to have it as easy as possible so that anybody can enter the data. So we will go over the process of filling out an invoice and filling out a check, but we also want to think of how do you set up the system in order to make that data input process as easy as possible. We'll take a look at setting that up both in the QuickBooks versions, and we'll also look at the transactions in Excel, which will give us an idea of what the goal is. What is the system actually doing? How is the data being processed? What do we need to have happened in terms of the accounts that will be affected by these types of transactions that will then be used in order to generate the trial balance and the financial statements. The Excel will give us a much more bare bones look at that in terms of each form we create here, invoice or a bill or a check, will be entered over here with just a journal entry, showing us what the journal entry that is created through that data input, showing it being then posted to the general ledger, showing it being then used to create the trial balance, and then ultimately used to create the financial statements. As we go through the first month of operations, we're going to take a look at transactions that are going to be more unique toward the first month of operations. Those including transactions for financing, where the owner is going to put money into the business, and or we take a loan out for the business. We're also going to focus more on transactions that will be cash-related transactions. We will have accrual transactions as well, but our major focus is going to be transactions related to cash. And in the following month, we'll take a look at more transactions that will be accrual-based transactions. It's also important to note that the first month is going to be difficult in that we do have to, set up the data input process so the data input will be easier to go forward with. And also when we enter the data into the system, just even in the data input side, because we haven't entered anything before for particular vendors possibly, or the amounts for customers, we're going to have to enter that data for the first time, and that takes a little bit more time to set up a system. Once that is done, the second month of operations will show that some of this information will populate for us as we go. So the first month, the setup process is typically going to be more difficult in setting up that information. Note that if we go into work for another company, that the data will already be set up, and what we really need to do then is interpret what has happened and try to see what the prior transactions were and how to continue with the same type of transaction, the same format of the transactions going forward. But learning the setup process will help us to understand how the system was set up, and then go back and make any changes and make any improvements to the system as we move forward.